It's time to do a service on the Mercury 30 horse. So I just thought I'd do a quick video to show what I do for an oil change and maintenance on it. So first thing I like to do is warm up the oil. So I'm gonna hook up the water to it. I'm not sure what this is called. I just call them earmuffs, and run the motor for a couple minutes just to warm up the oil so it flows out nice. So after the motor is run for a couple minutes, warmed up the oil, brought her into the garage here. I'm going to drain the oil first. I'll put a list of the tools and supplies used during this video. So it's just a 16 mil nut on it. And I'll be using 10W30 oil. I tried their synthetic oil and I really didn't like how it performed. It's really thick, and during the cooler weather, the motor's really hard to start. Well, after letting it drip for a couple minutes, just reinstall the drain plug. Next we'll do the oil filter. So the oil filter is right there. It is kind of tight in there and makes kind of a mess. It's best to tilt the motor up, or else you end up with oil everywhere. So we'll put the new oil filter in. I'm not sure on the sizes. I've just been getting the Mercury ones. I'm sure you can use other ones. So on the rubber ring, I just take a little dab of oil and spread it around. And thread on the new oil filter. So I'm going to go with the 10W30. Like I said, I prefer that. You can run it during the winter, and motor starts up a little better with it. So the capacity on it is 1.8 liters of oil. And I like to fill it up to the top of the dipstick before firing it up, and then the oil that goes into the oil filter will bring that level down. So after firing it up quickly, just to get the oil into the oil filter and spread it around. I don't know if I can get that to focus. But it's right down the middle of the dipstick. Next thing we'll do is the gear oil on the bottom. Okay, so when doing the gear oil, it's 2 flathead screws, and the drain is also the fill level. So this is your top screw, and the drain and fill screw is on the bottom there. So when you're putting the gear oil back in, you pump it in, and until it starts flowing out of the top screw, that's you know how much gear oil you need. So this one, you need a pretty big screwdriver. And I like taking off the top one just to take any vacuum that could be stopping any of the gear oil from flowing out. And we'll let that drain for a couple minutes. So I've let the gear oil drain out for a few minutes and drained out enough to my liking. I just went with the Mercury gear oil. Came with their little pump kit, and so it's got the right size fitting to screw into the drain hole. So a little opposite, you drain and fill out of the bottom hole. So that screws in there, and then you screw in the pump. Try to get this in a little closer. So you keep pumping the gear oil until you start getting oil out of the top oil level hole. So that's when you know when to stop. And that's it for changing the gear oil. Pretty easy. So the next step is there's a couple grease nipples that need a little bit of grease. There is one right there, and there's a couple, one on each side. So just hit it with the grease gun. So for checking the spark plugs, you need a 5/8 spark plug wrench or a long socket, and probably an extension. And I like just loosening them up until they're finger tight or finger loose, and then back them out by hand. So we will clean it up just with a wire wheel, check the gap. There's the first one, looks pretty good. See if we get this to focus. Right there. So it's not too bad. We'll check the gap. It's 0.8 to 0.9 millimeters is the gap. And so I just like taking a little wire wheel. I'm sure there's some mechanics that are cringing right now. I'm not sure. This is what I've been shown before. clean it up, check the gap. And in Imperial, it is 0.31 to 0.035 is the gap. So we're good there, and we'll just reinstall it. So putting it back in, it's been cleaned, been gapped. These spark plugs are new, less than 100 hours on them, so I'm fine putting them back in. And just repeat the process for the other 2 spark plugs. Snug it up. And I'll go ahead and do the other 2 spark plugs. So the last one, just need a knuckle to get to it. So there you go. That's the simple maintenance I do on my motor. At least once a year, maybe sometimes 2 times a year, depending on how many hours I put on it. So pretty simple. And even filming maybe took 45 minutes to get this done, and 10 minutes of that was trying to find that knuckle. Okay, well, I got just a couple side notes here. A couple things I just remembered that might find useful. I already did this year, so I'm not going to do it right now. One thing you can do, remove your prop and just throw a little grease onto the splines. Helps prevent having it seized on there in case you need to change it out. You end up breaking your prop and you need to put your spare on. Another thing, checking the motor mount bolts, make sure that they're tight. I barely touch them just to make sure that they're tight because I don't want to break any of the waterproof sealant on them. Also, it's not really that big of a deal, but those mounting bolts, I'll undo them once a year and throw some grease on them just so that they don't seize up. Well, I had to turn it off there. I thought I had another point, but I guess not. I guess my wife would probably agree. I think I know more than I do. Anyways, there you go. Hope that helps. Pretty simple job to do yourself. Just take your time. Pretty easy. And I run this motor all year round. I don't winterize it because I am running it during the winter anyway. So, like I said, that's why I like using the 10W30. I have tried their synthetic, and it's a 2540, and it's way too heavy. I find the motor has trouble starting up, and you really have to let it warm up before getting out there and giving her some gas. So, like I said, if you're running it during the fall or spring, and I think their temperature rating is for 4 degrees Celsius and below is 10W30, so just might as well run that all year round. So hopefully you find that you learned something and maybe figured you can do it yourself. I do the maintenance on the Kicker Honda as well, and that's pretty much the exact same thing except just the 1 cylinder. And the oil, I always use 10W30 in that one. Actually, a little side note I just thought of. If you're running a Kicker and you're finding that it's gumming up, the spark plug, try this Lube, ring free. You just throw a little bit into your fuel and run your kicker as normal, because I was getting some gumming up and oil loss just because the motor never gets up to temperature, and I tried that ring free and it has cleared it up. So it's worth buying. It's a little expensive. I think it's almost 40 bucks a bottle, but you don't have to use much, and I don't use it all the time. I just give it a good shot once in a while, maybe twice a year, and works pretty good.